Yeah, so today I'm going to be disassembling and hopefully repairing this SMC Pentax-A 1.7 f1.7 50mm lens. It's in fairly good condition, and I bought it in China and it was doing really well until all of a sudden one day the aperture ring became very tight and it wouldn't go past between f8 and f11, and look, it's very tight. This is a common issue with these lenses, and usually means that there's a bit of plastic stuck in the aperture ring mechanism. What I'm going to do is which means you can't really use anything like the auto, and it's sunny days whatsoever. So I'm going to take this apart, following some various advice on the internet. It's not very obvious when you read someone's description, maybe that's just my impatience, but I'm going to take it apart carefully and hopefully find and diagnose the issue. Okay, so first I'm going to take off all 5 of these. Look like Phillips screws. I've heard that they're not, but they look like it, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay. Well, I'm going to stick these metal screws to my magnetic plate, which I hopefully shouldn't lose, but you never know. 1, 2, 3. 4 and 5. Just a quick point, you'll notice that it goes wide open to here. You can even push it here, but it doesn't go all the way in, all the way to the end. I've taken it to a few shops and all of them have said the same, that you need to take it apart. Okay, I'm going to take off this metal piece, opening up to the inside. Okay. Carefully unscrew the inner lens and place it to the side, the first element, initial lens element. If it does unscrew, that is. Right. Now the next thing I'm going to do is remove the aperture ring, but I'm going to do it inside a Ziploc bag, but I'm going to quickly find a bigger one. I'm just going to use a Ziploc bag that I got at the airport the other day. The reason you have to do this is because there is, inside here, there's a ball bearing with a spring behind it, and if you take the aperture ring off, the ball bearing and the spring pop out and will fly across the room. So carefully, I'm going to pull this. You can feel it. Okay. It's falling apart, but I think I'm okay. Take it out of the bag now. It's not been the most careful of technique, but so quick overview or a pointer before you actually start. I'll say be very careful where all the little parts go. I would watch my video or someone else's video through fully. Because there's 3 key parts that you can lose really easily, and if you lose it, it'll just take so much time, and I lost it, and it's just annoying. So 1, you've got the button that goes in your aperture ring. 2, you've got the weird metal mechanism. You've got 2 bits of metal, 2 flattish bits of metal, 1 like bullet-shaped piece of metal with a groove in it, and then a spring that goes in that. And then the 3rd is your ball bearing that's going to pop out when you take out the aperture ring. It might not pop out, and it might stick, which is what happened to me. And then I took my lens away, and then it fell out at a later point. Luckily, I went back to that point and found the ball bearing again, and then also the spring that's in the lens, which the ball bearing sits on top of. Mine actually got damaged a bit, because I forgot to put the ball bearing in one time and it twisted the spring. So be really careful about that. If you're careful, you'll do it all quickly. If you're not careful, you'll have to try again and again, and you might break something. So yeah, just wanted to remind that. One thing I would actually mention you do, I recommend that you do, is once you've removed the aperture ring, I'd look around, look at the lens itself, and actually find the ball bearing, find the spring, find the like the 2 plate with the bullet and the spring thing, find the button and put them somewhere safe, whilst you're messing about with the other stuff, because they very easily disappear, and it's a lot harder to find something 10 minutes after you lost it rather than at the time. If I'd done that, then I would have found the ball bearing immediately, but I didn't. What you'll notice is that this lens can now go all the way to f/22 very easily. So clearly there's something obstructing this from moving. That's really satisfying. Sorry, getting distracted. Okay, let me diagnose. One thing you also have to be aware of is this. Let me use my tweezers. This button, it's for the auto, to lock the auto aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode, auto exposure. It goes in here and it might pop out. Mine's stuck in place because of a little bit of grease. I might remember to put some grease in, maybe some lithium grease, or I just want to say that I probably wouldn't recommend cleaning your lens or the inner element unless it's really dirty. The fact of the matter is the dust in there doesn't actually make that much of a difference on how clear it is, and if there's fungus, you're probably not going to be able to get it off. I mean, you can try, just make sure you know what you're doing. I definitely don't. I'm just doing this for fun. It's quite a cheap lens as well. So I'm quickly going to give the shutter, maybe this is a bad idea, a clean, and the inside of the lens a clean. Can't see this though, so I've got to keep it upside down, and then I'll get the inside of that lens clean. Maybe this is a bad idea because there's no dirt on there, but I saw some dust, and maybe it's inside the actual main chamber. We'll find out. Maybe this is just scratching it. Okay, so I think that's left the inner lens slightly better than it was before, but to be honest, minimal. And so this model of lens is pretty cheap. It's the stock lens for the camera, and as such, the build quality is not great, and it uses plastic glue. And these metal springs, they're used to click in the auto exposure setting. And so sometimes the plastic breaks and then it stops it from rotating properly. So you just have to glue it back in place, essentially. These f1.7 50mm have these metal pieces. I'm not entirely sure what they are for, but they're involved. I think they're involved in making the focus ring click, or something along those lines. But basically, this metal element is glued in with just this, if you can focus, with just this plastic here. It's just some plastic glue, something like that. So this one's clearly come undone and then gotten stuck in the whole focus ring. So I've taken it apart and I will glue it back on again. What I'm going to use is super glue. I would probably recommend epoxy. But this is industrial grade super glue, and it says it's fairly viscous. Either way, these kind of glues, they'll be volatile until they set, and since super glue is quick drying, it should probably set quite quickly and stop being volatile. The importance of that is you don't want anything volatile inside your lens off-gassing, because then you might get some fog on the inside of your lens. Luckily also, this is in the focus ring and not really inside the lens element, so I don't think it should be an issue. Yeah, so I'm just going to glue that back on. So I've just given the outside of some nail polish remover, the inside of the focus ring a clean, and then I've re-greased it. Probably do. And I'm going to do the same. As you can see, after many years of use, the grease has kind of gotten really far into here. And and you need to clean it out before you replace the grease, because otherwise, if you got two greases, they'll contaminate each other, and it'll then damage they'll then start to stick, so they'll actually not work. I don't know if this is the lithium grease I use for my bike. I don't know if that's recommended, but to be honest, so a lot has happened. This is an inexpensive lens, so I'm not really too worried you what was going on. If you are, maybe I was last probably cleaning this. I recorded some other videos. I've had a few other realizations. I literally like maybe an hour or I figured why not give it a quick clean. Fiddling about, which I know is a long time, but I wanted to get it right. I'll go through each of the things that I've found. So when I glued this extra part on, when I glued this this spring, this stiff spring, that like flat spring here, you see, what I think maybe has happened is that I glued it and it's poking out a little bit more than the original one, and this might have been the case. This essentially is a problem, because the way this works is on either side, inside the focus ring, on either side there's a lip, and so what happens is once you rotate the aperture ring, into auto mode, these fall into the lips and it can't move because you've got something on either side of the lip, and the only way you can you can't even move it in without pressing down. Essentially, there'll be the auto button here. There's the button here, and you press it down, and it presses down this spring, and it allows the aperture ring to rotate. The same goes for moving back. But I think the issue is that essentially I wasn't able. I put this all back together, but my aperture ring wasn't able to rotate back, and I think it might be because this spring was glued in at too big an angle. So I think the angle of this spring really matters, so really pay attention to it when you're doing it. But to be honest, I don't know if I could have done it any other way, but it's something, if you're wondering why it's not working, you might have to remove it and re-glue it, or you can do what I've done, which I'll tell you about in a second. Okay, so there's that part. And then, you've got this aperture ring, just to clarify, and this button here that you can see here, maybe. Yeah, you can see here. And it actually has this little tag on it on the side. And what I found was, depending on the direction of the tag, it's very hard for you to see. Depending on the direction of this tag, it would or wouldn't work. And I think it was to do with how it interacted with these metal springs. And so it's worth playing about. If your thing is stuck, play about with the orientation of this black button. Yeah. Okay, so that's the button. Next we have the ball bearing. So really try and make sure not to lose it. I thought I'd lost it. Whole ordeal. One thing you can do if you think you've lost it is you can use other ball bearings. Sure, you can buy one online. Or an alternative is to use the ball bearing out of a ballpoint pen. That's a common one, but I magically found this one. I'm so lucky that I even found it. And then there's one other part which I showed you before, which is this. It's this compound metal part here. Oh shit. And it's got a base plate, essentially, which just sits on top. Then you've got this other plate. Essentially what you want to do is you need to slot this into here. There's an article linked in the description which shows what this looks like more close. I can't really get it focused on my thing, but just remember you have to slot it in because there's a groove cut into this bullet-shaped thing. You really can't see it very well, but again, you need to remember to slot it in. But that it kind of falls off a lot of the time when you're fitting the aperture ring, but I realized that you don't actually have to put it in immediately. So you can slot these together and put it to the side, and then once you have put the aperture ring on and maybe a few other components, you can then slot this back in and avoid having to worry about knocking it over. Okay, I think that's everything. Now I'm just going to reassemble it, and you can watch while I do it. I'm just going to fast forward because you really can't see exactly what I'm doing, but yeah, you'll see the end product. I've greased and lubed this. I think I've already said. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. I'm fairly certain this part, when you secure it down, it'll do the job. So now I'm just going to do the rear element. I'm going to give it a quick blow. I don't see, I maybe see a tiny speck of dust, but I realize you got to be careful with these parts because actually, oh shit, oh, it just wants to fall down. Actually, even wiping it with something, you're probably going to put on more dust than there was in the first place. Okay. And now you can see the inner element. So the aperture ring is going from 1.7 all the way to 22. Most of this stuff you really aren't going to be able to see. And then I can move into auto and then out of auto by pressing this button. Okay, now I'm going to screw this and you've not depressed the button. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Okay, now I will put on the following ring. So the next step is to add this back. This you want to make sure, so there's actually an